Christmas Eve, 1945. 5 children vanished without a trace. No bodies, no bones, no answers. A house burnt to the ground in under an hour. But the mystery that followed has burned for nearly 80 years. Cut phone lines, a missing ladder, strangers watching from the shadows, and a photograph posted decades later that looked too much like one of the missing children. Was it a tragic fire or a carefully planned kidnapping? In this episode, we're unwrapping one of the most chilling unsolved cases in American history. A story of conspiracy, cover-ups, and a family who refused to accept the official explanation. This is the disappearance of the Sodder children.
Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 36 of Spooky and Kooky. I'm Ellen.
I'm Alice, and if you're into anything horror, paranormal, conspiracy, bit of true crime, anything a bit weird, then this is the pod for you. We're happy to see you, and I hope you're all well. Today we're diving into a child disappearance case, which is very mysterious. I don't even know what I think about it yet.
I was intrigued by the intro, so I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're going to give me some good thoughts, because I don't know what to make of it.
Well, I'm going in blind. I don't recognise the names, but true crime is your bag, so I don't really know much.
Okay, so I'm just going to dive into it. For decades, if you were driving down Route 16 near Fayetteville, West Virginia, you'd pass a billboard with 5 grainy faces, dark-haired, solemn-eyed, all children who vanished without a trace. Their names and ages were posted underneath with a chilling question: were they kidnapped, murdered, or could they still be alive? This is the story of the unsolved case of the Sodder children, a story tangled in tragedy, conspiracy, and a Christmas Eve that turned into a nightmare. We'll start before the mystery, and we'll start with the Sodder family. George Sodder, the dad of the family, was born in 1895 from Sardinia, Italy, and he arrived in America as a teenager through Ellis Island with his older brother, who promptly went back to Italy, which left George alone in a new world. George worked his way up from carrying water for railroad workers in Pennsylvania to becoming a coal truck driver in West Virginia. Eventually, he owned his own trucking company, a true immigrant success story. Jenny, the mother, was born Jenny Capriani, also from Italy, and grew up in West Virginia, and was warm and the steady heart of her household. She and George married in 1922 and built a home with 10 children: John, Joe, Marion, George Jr., Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, Betty, and finally Sylvia, who was born in 1942. By the mid-1940s, the Sodders were respected, comfortable, and known for their strong work ethic and tight-knit family life. Jenny made sure every Christmas was magical. Unfortunately, the Christmas of 1945 would change everything. On Christmas Eve, the Sodders were enjoying a cosy evening. Joe, their eldest, was still away serving in the military. The war was officially over at this point, but troops were still not home from overseas. The rest of the 11 family members were home, and when George and Jenny and their older boys wanted to retire to bed for the evening, the younger kids pleaded to stay up and play with their new toys, and Jenny, feeling festive, agreed, but reminded them to all do their usual bedtime chores, which was making sure the chickens were locked in their coop and the cows were fed. Jenny went up to bed with George, tucked baby Sylvia into her crib, and fell asleep around 10ish to 11ish that evening. She was then jolted awake around midnight by the phone ringing. She rushed to pick it up so it didn't wake anyone else, and there was a woman on the other end whose voice Jenny didn't recognise, and they asked for someone who Jenny didn't know. She heard laughter and clinking glasses, so assumed it was the wrong number, and went back to bed. So this was one of the things that...
Johnny Gosh.
Yeah, so why I get so interested in true crime is I love noticing patterns.
Yeah.
And when you see 2 cases where things line up, you think, oh, is that just coincidence that they got a random phone call the night before their children disappeared? Obviously, we're going to go into all of that, but it's just something that reminded me of the Johnny Gosh case, because obviously they got calls at strange hours in the morning. So it's just something I found interesting. Before she went back to bed, she noticed that the lights were on downstairs, so she went down to see if the children had gone to bed, and she found Marion, who was the eldest daughter, asleep on the sofa. And Marion was meant to look after the younger children, like get them up to bed, make sure they had done their chores. So Jenny just assumed, she didn't see the younger children, but she assumed that Marion had fallen asleep and the other children had gone up to the attic room where they would sleep. But she also noticed that the front door was left unlocked. The curtains were still open, and like I said, the lights were still on, and she noticed that the kids hadn't done their chores, but she kind of explained this away to herself by thinking, it's Christmas Eve, the younger children have got caught up in the festivities and they've just gone straight up to bed. So she rushed round, got everything locked and turned off, and then went back up to her bed. Before she dozed off to sleep, she heard a banging on the roof, and then she heard something rolling down the side of it.
Santa.
One could assume. And then it was followed by silence, so she kind of went back to sleep, not thinking anything of it. But half an hour later, she was woken again by the smell of smoke. And when she opened the door, the flames were already roaring through the house. So she's screaming to wake George up, and when she screamed to wake George up, she also woke Marion up, who's asleep on the sofa downstairs. So Marion came up and scooped baby Sylvia up out of the crib and went out the house with them. Jenny went to phone the police, but the phone didn't work, which we know half an hour beforehand was working completely fine.
Yeah.
George went to try and get up to the attic room, but the stairs were already engulfed in flames and he couldn't get up. He called for his children, and the two older boys that went up to bed with George and Jenny managed to get out with their hair singed, but George couldn't get up to get the other children. So he ran out of the house with them and thought, I'll try a different plan to get up to the attic. He tried to get some water out of their water bucket, which I imagine is like
a water butt.
Water butt, but because of the cold temperature, it was frozen solid. He then thought, ladder by the side of the house, that's always by the side of the house, I'll use that to get up to the window. The ladder wasn't there, which is strange because it was always there, so the ladder was gone. Then he thought, I'll use my trucks to drive up to the side of the house, climb on the trucks, and then reach the window. Both of his trucks that were working perfectly the day before, dead. Completely dead.
All of those things can't just happen.
Be coincidence. So he's panicking, thinking, I need to get into my children.
Yeah.
By this point, the neighbours had kind of gathered round to see what was going on, and one of them managed to contact the local fire department. Now, this is back in 1945. This is before houses had proper fireproofing, so that's one thing to note. But also, the fire department worked a little bit different, and the war had also caused some disruption. So a lot of the people who were in the fire department got enlisted in the army.
Yeah.
So they were built up of volunteers at this time because, like I said, even though the war was officially over, some troops were still overseas.
Yeah.
So they had a department made up of volunteers, and the way they would get help is one person would call and the fire chief would pick it up, and then he would call on to the next person, who would then call on to the next person, who would then call on to the next person, which sounds like a terrible system.
Yeah, but I guess back then, what other system is there?
Yeah, that's just the system they had. So when I say the next thing, it's just important to remember that fire departments did not work how they do now, because they took 7 hours to reach them. And
see, that seems... I know.
It seems steep.
Yeah, that seems like a long time. What at that point, is there much point in having a fire service? Because the fire's done. The fire has nothing left to burn. It's burnt everything.
Well, that's the thing, because obviously they live 10 minutes away from the firehouse. And the fire chief said, well, I couldn't drive the truck, so he had to find someone. I don't know if he needed 2 people to operate it or what, but that's
nearly a full day's work to get there. I don't know.
I don't understand it, but apparently that's not actually that unheard of.
Okay.
I've heard. So I think it's a bit much, even with their poor system, but
yeah.
Well, it wasn't that bad. But by the time they had got there, because like I said, these houses didn't have modern day fireproofing, so the house, from when Jenny woke up and smelt smoke, it took 40 minutes to burn completely down. The roof collapsed in, it was just demolished.
Yeah.
So the fire department got there after all of that had, like you said, after
what do
the
they
fires
do
were
then?
done.
Just like, oh,
Yeah.
Just chuck a bucket of water on it just to make us feel like we've done something.
So when the fire department got there, they started doing all they could do at the time. So they started sifting through the remains.
Damn.
However, their investigation took only 2 hours, which also, I didn't know this, but apparently that is abnormal. Apparently
think it would
it's meant
take
to take
longer.
a day or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, like multiple days. It's not meant to take only 2 hours.
But is that because they literally had nothing to really sift through by that point?
I don't know if
Everything's
it's
gone.
because it was Christmas Day and they were volunteers and they were like, well, the pile of ash is still going to be here tomorrow.
Christmas is only one day though, so.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going anywhere. I know that sounds brutal, but I can't think why it only took them 2 hours, because even if it's completely burnt,
Do you think they
should
just
have
like
taken longer.
they looked for people, couldn't find any, and was like, okay.
Yeah, so they said to George and Jenny they would return to keep investigating after that 2 hours, but a week went by and they hadn't returned. George and Jenny are obviously, they know 5 of their children most likely have died in this fire.
Yeah.
At this point, so they're distraught, they're in shock, and George just got sick of looking at the house that once stood there burned.
Because were they staying with neighbours in this time? Or?
I assume so, maybe family. I don't know where they were staying, but he just got sick of looking at it. So
Yeah.
he took quite a radical step, which probably wasn't the right thing to do, but if the fire department hasn't come back by this point, he basically just filled in the hole where the basement was with dirt and built a makeshift memorial.
Oh, that sounds like a bad idea. I mean, it's a nice idea, but
It's just not great.
no.
But in the first lot of investigating, so the 2 hours they spent investigating, they never found any human remains.
See, did they not think, like, I don't understand how they then left it a week, because there's still 5 children unaccounted for. If they're not in the fire, where are they?
So they issued the death certificates really quick after that initial investigation. So they just issued these death
With
certificates.
no bodies?
Yeah, no bodies, but saying they died in a fire. And that was it. That was their ruling. So George and Jenny, at this point, they're just in grief and they're absolutely distraught that they've got no parts of their children to bury. So
Yeah.
George is thinking, I'll build a memorial.
Where it was, yeah.
And I won't lie, when I first heard the beginning of this story, it took me to Mick Philpott.
Did you think suspicious then? You thought,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
I just thought they've got 10 children. Were they having financial troubles?
They're like, we need to just
They
cut the
need
family in
insurance.
half.
People do that.
Yeah, but you don't just think,
that's-
we'll get rid of 5 kids. Which ones don't you want?
I think people would do that. I've heard cases before where they just, well, maybe not 5 of their kids, but they can't afford to have the children, so they just make a plan to get rid of them.
That's not. That's.
I know. I know. After I looked into it, I don't think that's the case, because it doesn't seem like they were having any financial problems. But my mind went to Mick Philpott, because he wanted a bigger house. He made up this whole plan to burn the house down, and then the children were just accidentally left inside. But, you know, you try and burn the house
They
down.
were genuinely accidentally left inside? Or they just said
That's-
accidentally?
I believe so, because they want... So Mick Philpott is probably one of the most hated criminals in Britain. Very notorious. He was on the Jeremy Kyle show at one point because
Oh,
he
was
wanted
he?
this big... Yeah, he
didn't know
wanted a
that.
bigger council house. So Jeremy Kyle got him on just to talk about his 10 kids and his big council house debacle. He made a plan with one of his wives, because he had a polyamorous relationship, but one of them had split off. So they made a plan to burn the house down so the council gave them a bigger house for their 10 kids. And he also wanted to frame the ex who had split off, because she was going to take the children, and without the children he wouldn't have got his bigger house. That was the plan, and it sounds ludicrous, and this is why I could never be a defence lawyer, because don't
How
come
did
to
you
me and
defend
say,
that?
what do you mean you didn't mean to burn the children? Like, you put gasoline through the letterbox.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's an evil, evil man, and that's what I thought of when I heard this story, but I don't think that when we go into these things, there's no motivation for it.
What I don't know, because I don't know, obviously, is we're in a fire. Could a fire be hot enough to burn bones? Like, is that why? No, so how can they issue a death certificate if they haven't found any bones?
So it would be, from my research, it's very, very unlikely.
That it would be hot enough to burn bones?
Yeah, especially in 40 minutes, and I'll tell you why. back to the story. The investigators ruled the fire as accidental due to faulty wiring. Death certificates, like I said, were issued quickly, listing the cause of death as fire for the 5 children. As the family mourned over the first year, things just didn't add up for them. First off, the house's wiring had recently been redone by a professional, and then the power company sent someone else to check it, because that's what happens, isn't it? They've got to be ticked off, so the wiring was all fine. The fire department explained that the way one of the fuse boxes had burned was why they believed the fire was accidental. However, this also didn't make sense as the lights were working during the fire. Both George and Jenny remember the lights being on during the fire, and because the smoke was so thick and so black, if the lights hadn't been working, they wouldn't have made it out the house because they wouldn't have been able to find a path through. So the lights were definitely working during the fire.
Yeah.
Jenny also started doing her own experiments with pig and chicken bones. So she would put them in a wood burner, and when the fire would burn out, she could see the bones were only charred and not fully destroyed. She also visited a local crematorium just to ask them to explain to her how the cremation process worked.
Yeah.
And they said it would be extreme temperatures for a duration of 2 hours.
Right.
And then even then they would still have bone fragments that they then have to process down to ash themselves. So even at really high temperatures, which house fires don't get to, it still leaves some bone. Something just wasn't adding up, and once the Sodders started thinking about the weeks and months leading up to the fire, they realised in hindsight some things that seemed strange at the time now seem like it could be part of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah.
George recalls a man coming to the house to sell life insurance. George declined, politely but firmly, and the salesman snapped. He told George, "Your house will go up in smoke and your children will be destroyed." The word destroyed now stuck with George because he didn't say harmed or killed. He literally said destroyed. Oddly specific.
A little bit.
But then to say it was this insurance salesman guy just because George didn't buy his insurance.
Yeah, surely many people say no.
That would be mad.
But then
that
maybe
would be a mad motive.
that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and he was like, "Fuck it, you know what?"
It's just one of those things in hindsight that seem really odd, but when I think about it, I just don't understand how that could be a motive.
It's just such a weird thing to say. Your children will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a strange turn of phrase.
And even insurance doesn't stop the house from burning down. It'll just provide financial support when it does.
Yeah.
So it's very odd.
But the weird thing is, like, the bump on the roof and then the missing ladder.
So both of those things, I think, can be explained as I go on. The Sodders were then visited by another strange individual, a handyman, who was asking for work, and George again turned him down. And the man pointed to the fuse box, the one that the fire department said the way it burned, it looked like it could be the culprit for the accidental fire. He pointed to it and said it would cause a fire someday, which again is just odd.
Why are all these people threatening them with fire?
That's what I don't understand. And the wiring had been inspected and approved recently, so it just seems unlikely that that would be the cause.
Unless he tampered with it.
Yeah, but again, that would be so weird. Like, imagine, like, this guy won't give me work, so I'm going to burn his house down.
Such a small thing.
And surely this area in West Virginia would have so many house fires that were unexplained, and people would start being like, "Oh, there was this guy who said my house would burn down before it did."
Yeah, that is weird though. Like, that is weird that 2 different people have been like, "Your house is gonna burn down, mate."
It is so bizarre, I don't understand it. Days after the fire, the Sodders returned to pay respect at the memorial George had set up, and baby Sylvia was playing in the garden in some dirt, and she found a green, rubbery object in the garden. Something George said looked like a grenade-type device. And Jenny did say she heard something hit the roof and then kind of like slide and bounce down. And neighbours also reported seeing balls of fire on the roof.
What?
So they're thinking it could have been...
Not a grenade, though. I think they'd know. If a grenade went off. A grenade.
It's a grenade-type device. That's what it says.
if they were bombed, basically.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like,
Balls
what
of
was
fire,
the-
though. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like Molotov cocktails being thrown at the top of their house or something. That's mad.
It is so
What
bizarre.
day? Yeah.
It's so bizarre because I don't know. Surely the neighbours looked after the fire had started, so I don't think the neighbours would have seen the initial attack if it was a grenade.
Because if they did, if you saw balls of fire hitting your neighbour's house, you'd ring the police.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it must have been when it was already ablaze and things were going. I don't.
Yeah, so maybe it was like
I don't-
things exploding and
I can't picture it.
I can't see what would do that.
No, it's so bizarre. But then they found this thing in the garden and they were like, oh, this looks like a grenade type device. So maybe not a grenade, but like you said, a Molotov cocktail. And they're thinking it's some sort of explosive or fire starting device. And
Yeah.
they're thinking, oh, the neighbours did say balls of fire over the house. Maybe this was a coordinated attack.
Jesus.
Neighbours also reported seeing children being carried from the home that night. So this is where the kidnapping theory stops being speculation and starts needing to be explored. This was not the only sighting the Sodders received. They weren't vague rumours, but detailed accounts from people. One lady said she was driving past the Sodder home and saw a car with children in. And the children were just watching the fire, not screaming, not crying, just watching. And then the car sped away. And to me, that sounds really creepy. Because if it was the Sodder children, you would think there would be definitely some emotion.
Yeah.
Because you could say, oh, they've been coerced to be getting in the car, but they would...
Because even if they were scared and they were like, you've not got a family now because watch the house burn down,
Yeah, they wouldn't just be sat there.
you'd be like crying or, yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe it was someone, because you've got to think, they are Italian Americans, they've got a distinctive look, they're dark haired. I'm thinking if the area has a lot of Italian Americans in, was it someone else with kids in the car who looked like the Sodder children, who was like, oh my god, a house is on fire, and then sped away to call for help? Something like that.
But were they stopped just watching it? Because that's weird.
Yeah, and then the car sped away.
What parent would stop with their children to watch a house fire?
I don't know. I can't explain it. It's
Yeah.
a bizarre sighting, but it's separate from the one who saw the children being carried from the house. Another woman was a witness working in a tourist shop in Charleston who said she saw the children the next morning. They were with adults who refused to speak to her. She said the children looked nervous and out of place. She remembered their faces for the rest of her life. A hotel worker also claimed she saw 4 of the Sodder children with 2 men. When she tried to speak to them, the men became hostile and shut her down. But again, if there are just Italian Americans in this area, are there a lot of people who look like the Sodder children?
Yeah, and it's difficult, isn't it? Because you always get loads of sightings come in.
That may be nothing burgers, as they call it.
Yeah, and maybe they genuinely did think that they saw
Yeah.
them, but they didn't.
It's not saying that these people don't think they're being helpful. I'm sure there are some people who just want to be part of something, so they say they saw it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more people who generally think they've seen something, they're trying to be helpful, and they've misidentified or seen something that has another explanation.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but these, obviously when you've got no body as well from your child,
Yeah.
and the fire all seems suspicious, then you've got these witness accounts.
What are you going to think? Yeah, what are you going to
Yeah. On top of, so obviously the children slept in the attic room. Marion was down on the sofa. Baby Sylvia was obviously in her crib. One of the sons was away, still in the army, but the 2 older boys were in that attic room.
And they got out. Did they remember seeing their...
So, they initially, one of them said they remembered seeing the other kids up there
Right.
and said he tried to wake them up to get them out the house, but he couldn't. But later, he said he never saw them, and the smoke was actually too thick and too black that he wouldn't have been able to see them.
Right.
So he later retracted the statement, and it's basically said that out of guilt,
I was going to say, is
he
it because
didn't
he
just
didn't...
want to run and leave them. So
Yeah.
he was like, oh no, I did try and wake them. But then later, when there was no bodies, he kind of admitted that he never did see them.
That I can get, because he didn't
Yeah.
want his parents to be like angry at him or anything.
Yeah.
So he said that.
And it was just one of the boys as well who said that he ever saw them. The other child didn't say that he saw them as well. And basically, those two boys have just never spoken about the incident really again publicly.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's just traumatic.
How
But-
old would they? Do you know how old they were?
So they were some of the older children, so they would have been late teens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So they would
they were
remember
quite
it
old.
probably.
Yeah. That was also something that was thrown in, that those two boys, I think, didn't see them. That's my opinion of it.
It's interesting that the oldest like slept though. If the kids were taken, I
Yeah.
can't imagine that they went quietly, just because small children don't do anything quietly.
But were they outside doing the cows and the chickens?
That's true, because the door was unlocked, so
Yeah.
you'd think if they had finished their chores, they would lock the door as they come in.
Yeah. You just don't know. Sightings and tips also came in from other states like Florida, Texas, North and South Carolina. One tip claimed that the children were taken west and raised under new names. Another said that they were living with a distant relative. None of these leads were ever disproven, but also never proven. But then what would be the motive to take 5 children and burn their house down? The Sodders appeared to be well liked. However, during the war, there was political tensions between the Italian-American community. Mussolini, the fascist dictator who was in power at the time, was a polarising figure, and people either loved him or hated him. No room for grey space in between. George was outspoken, largely outspoken, against Mussolini, and there are claims that George would get into verbal altercations with people about politics, and some men were known to be passionate Mussolini supporters and could have had connections to the mafia.
I mean,
This is one of the most widely believed theories, and I don't believe it.
it doesn't really make much sense to me.
I don't understand it.
To me, that just...
It's one of the most widely... I've got my own... I kind of do have my own theory. I said at the beginning I don't really know what to think of it, and I still don't really know what to think of it. Just from, like, talking it out loud with someone and making connections to past cases, I kind of do have my own theory on it now. But we'll go into the mafia stuff, because this is the most widely believed theory of it. The mafia has a reputation for silencing critics, punishing disobedience, and using kidnapping as leverage. So maybe this would be a good way to hurt George. Not kill him, but break his spirit. The mafia would have the resources to do this, but if the mafia wanted George gone over a political disagreement, which seems very extreme in itself,
Yeah.
why would they just not kill him and silence him? Why are they taking the kids? And if they said kidnapping for leverage...
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
Where's the ransom note? Like,
Yeah.
there's no leverage.
Now the mafia have 5 kids. What are they going to... Like, what's the end game here?
That's what I mean. It's just very...
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It seems really extreme for the mafia as well. Like, oh, this one guy really doesn't like Mussolini.
They've
Let's
got
take
bigger
him
probs. Yeah, surely.
Unless, you know, back in the 1940s, the mafia in West Virginia...
It was a quiet time.
Really into Mussolini, and maybe Mussolini was...
Yeah, but still, I'm sure
don't
they
know.
have bigger problems than one
Yeah, this
matey
one
running his
guy
mouth. Yeah.
He's not even... he's not a political figure. He's just a guy who owns a business who gets into political debates. I just
He
don't
has no
understand
sway.
it. Yeah, it's really bizarre.
Also, what are the plus points for Mussolini? I would love to know, because he's not cool.
Yeah. It's good that George was a case.
Yeah, I just don't know what his likeable traits would be.
No, we're about to meet one of his supporters. One of the passionate Mussolini supporters who George had verbal disagreements with was Lorenzo Giannittolo. He was a well-connected businessman who had direct financial ties to the Sodder family. He also knew George, as George worked for his construction business prior to starting his own business. When George and Jenny took out their mortgage, Lorenzo was listed as the beneficiary, meaning if their house burned down, Junior Tolo would get the insurance payout. That's not a casual detail, that's a motive, really. But would that explain taking the 5 kids?
No.
That would explain burning the house down.
Yeah, this is the thing. All these explanations just explain the house. None of these would fit for why you would take 5 children.
Because if someone's burnt the house down, that means that, yes, it wasn't an accidental fire, but the kids must have died in the home. Because I don't see a motive for this dude to take 5 children. For what?
Exactly, especially if they're not then going to get any sort of money out of it or anything.
Unless it's tied to a bigger crime ring of trafficking kids. I don't
it just
see
seems,
the point.
But surely there's easier targets than, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense.
And it's crimes with 2 different motives, like, oh, I'm involved in a child trafficking ring.
Yeah.
But I also want the money to burn someone's house down. I mean, if you're involved with that, you wouldn't have a problem with burning someone's house down for money. But it just seems like
it's just a bit
too
weird.
much going on. Like, too much on the criminal agenda.
It's one or the other.
There are some strange coincidences with Forenzo, like the guy who pointed at George's fuse box, some allege is connected to Forenzo, so I don't even know if he is connected or just people allege it. One of the men who also got into political arguments with George had been on the jury that ruled the fire accidental, and he was an associate of Forenzo also. Doesn't really make much sense for the kids still.
No. And to me, what makes sense is the kids are obviously the goal here in this crime.
Yeah.
To take the kids. So why burn the house down? Well, because then that's going to get rid of the rest of the family who's going to be looking for them or anything like that. Or, it just completely... it solves that issue of them wanting to find their family, like try and escape. Because they don't have one now. But obviously it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense that the kids are the motive, not the burning the house. The burning the house is secondary to that.
So I don't see the mafia being involved. I think it has to be someone... Because the mafia, are they into child trafficking? I thought they...
Probably.
I don't know.
That's not going to be beneath them, is it?
I don't know. Because some crimes are worse than others. I don't know. I just don't know, but I just don't see it being a possibility.
Also, though, it's a bit like kidnapping a kid. Okay, 5 though, that's quite a commitment.
It's quite a job.
Yeah. Was it just like, well, they're there, maybe we only wanted 1, but 5 are outside. Let's just take them all.
We can't just take one without the other. But then, so one instance, George saw a newspaper from New York and it had like a school picture in.
Right.
And one of the children in the school picture looked a lot like one of his children.
Yeah.
So he drove to the school in New York and basically like demanded to see this child, and obviously they didn't let him in.
Yeah.
He had to go home defeated. But they followed a lot of these leads up, like I said about the across states. They would travel out of state to find answers. Which
you would though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it brings me back to the Mick Philpott thing. This is why I don't think they did it themselves. Just to completely shut that down, I don't think you would be actively unearthing all of this stuff or trying to find the leads if you did it yourself.
And equally, I just don't think you would want to be in the house that you set fire to.
No.
And you start it from the top seems... I don't know, it just doesn't seem cool to me.
No, it seems a bit irresponsible.
But also, you have to remember that the kids that they took were the younger ones, so that would make sense. You would take the younger ones that don't really... that you could just kind of
but were they
plaster
the ones
over
that
their
were...
old family.
Yeah. But were they the ones who were just outside and opportunist? And this would have to... Like, this is the thing, this would have to be a targeted kidnapping, because what are the chances that someone with nefarious intentions would drive past a house with 5 young-ish kids outside feeding some cows and think...
I'm so glad I took the van out today.
I was about to say, there would need to be in a van. Like, that would be very weird for it to be an opportune thing. I guess it's not out of the realm of absolute possibility.
But how could you know that for certainty they would be outside? Like, this isn't in their normal routine, so it has to be opportunistic, surely. How else?
I just don't know. Yeah, because they would already be in bed, you're absolutely right, because it's Christmas Eve.
Yeah, like, this would not be their normal day-to-day day.
Christmas Eve seems a really weird time to do it as well, because like you said, people aren't in their normal day, so even if they've been scouting the house out for months, you might think Christmas Eve they might be out.
Yeah, or away.
Yeah, it's a risky time to do it, Christmas Eve.
Which makes me think, is this why, and I know you're going to say why the ladder was missing, but like, were they going to go get the kids and the ladder was to get inside, and then they're like, oh, they're already outside.
So the ladder, basically, a man was actually arrested in connection to some block and tackle that was stolen from the house. It's something to do with George's business.
Right.
So this guy who was arrested because he had this stolen property, he was like, yeah, I was there that night of the fire, Christmas Eve, 1945.
That's when he was stealing it?
I stole from them on that night.
That was the roof noise.
I even cut I cut a line that I thought was the electrical line. It might have been the phone line. The guy who came to repair the phone line said it's weird because it was intentionally cut, but the phone line is so high up that someone would need to get up there intentionally and do it. So I'm thinking he got the ladder to cut some electrical line for whatever reason, and then accidentally cut the phone line.
Oh.
And then the ladder was found 75 foot away, ditched in a ditch. Literally just
That's
dumped in a
weird.
ditch.
You just take the ladder with you for a little bit.
Surely you would just lay it back down the side of the house.
You're like, oh, I'm still holding the ladder.
But he's never admitted to using the ladder. That's just my theory. The ladder was just found there, but this guy was there stealing from them that night and said, yeah, I did cut a wire that I assumed was just an electrical wire, but it absolutely had nothing to do with this fire.
Well, if he said he wasn't using the ladder, my mind jumping ahead from what you're going to go through is they used the ladder, thought the kids that we want to take aren't in their room. Like, there's only 2 of them in here.
Oh, yeah.
And then they thought, okay, well, let's go out. Oh my god, they're already outside. It's like it's meant to be.
There's another guy here stealing block and tackle.
That guy's cutting the phone line. Brilliant. Cheers for that.
But do you know what? That must have been connected to the noise on the roof then.
Yeah,
Because he
was on the
must
roof.
have done it. But how weird he was there. If it was him that cut the phone line and not just some electrical wire lower down, I don't really know. This is the thing. He was just not investigated further. They were just like, okay, you had nothing to do with the fire. But if the noise on the roof was him, that means in between the phone call and Jenny going back upstairs, this guy was robbing something from wherever in their house,
Yeah.
cutting a phone line, and then within half an hour,
The kids get taken.
and a fire breaks out.
Yeah.
And this guy's none the wiser.
Yeah. This is a wild...
It all just seems a bit weird.
There's no way he wouldn't have used the ladder, though, if he was stealing something from the roof, and the ladder's
But
always...
we don't know if he was stealing from... I don't know what block and tackle is. It's something to do with George's business. So was he the one...
I feel like I need to know what that is.
It's something to do with George's business.
But, because in my mind, I'm thinking it's to do with the roof, like, you know,
But
when
was it
people
in the
take the
truck?
lead, and that's why the trucks wouldn't start.
But why would he cut... If you're going to steal something from the truck, why would you then be like, just of a dig?
Would
I'm
he
not just going
cut-
to steal your property, I'm going to...
Yeah, but is that to give himself more time so they can't call the police and say, I've been robbed? So he has more time to do whatever he's going to do with the stolen things.
Yeah, the phone line.
Yeah.
But what about the trucks? Why would he make them not start?
I don't know.
Because that would literally be like, I'm going to steal from you, but also disable your 2 trucks because I'm just an arsehole.
I just don't like it.
Yeah, you like Mussolini. No, you don't like Mussolini, and I do.
He's the best.
So it gets weirder.
Oh, God. I can't take
Because
it.
months later, a local man came forward claiming that he found a human heart in the ashes of the Sodder home. This man was Fayette Fire Chief F.J. Morris, and what he did next made the story infamous.
So, a heart survived, but bones did not.
So this is so weird. He said he found a heart in the ashes, and instead of turning it over to the authorities, he buried it in a metal box on the property. And then the Sodders, because of everything that wasn't added up, they actually hired a private investigator.
Yeah.
So this guy, doing this at the time, he then later told the private investigator that he did it, which prompted the Sodders to go and dig it up. But then this is where the twist hits.
It wasn't there.
No, what they actually found, when the Sodders dug up the box, they discovered that the heart was not a heart at all. It was a beef liver that had never been burnt.
Wait.
Forensic testing confirmed it was not human, it had not been exposed to fire, and it was fresh, not something that had been in ashes.
And this was the chief fire mate, the one it actually was his job. He's not a volunteer. This is his...
This is the chief at the fire department. So, there's a couple of theories on why he could have done this. So, a misguided attempt at closure.
Yeah.
So, maybe, like, all of this was going on. He know they had hired a private investigator. Like I said, there was that billboard up. Loads of people in town were coming forward with witnesses and everything. And he was just like, look, your children died in a fire. Like, yes, it's tragic, but you all need to move on. I'm just going to place a beef liver and say it's a human heart. And then you can bury it as your children. Seems a bit odd to do.
To me, it's more like
it's more insulting.
I've really fucked up here. We took longer to get here than we did investigating it. We literally spent 2 hours here because I wanted to go home for my Christmas dinner. I'm in the shit.
The beef liver was saved from Christmas Day.
Yeah. No one wanted to eat this beef liver. I'm just going to bury it in a box. Sounds weird, but I'm hoping they're going to buy it.
So weird. Other people think it was a cover-up. Again, just to be like, because everything was being unearthed, he was just like, oh, do you know what? This needs to be shut down, so I'm just going to bury some cow parts and hope people buy it as a human heart. I don't know why he didn't just say it's a human liver.
I don't know why he did this in the first place.
Another theory is that it was a strange prank or panic response.
April Fools! I just thought it would be something funny to do.
Or he just panicked under the scrutiny and...
I mean, I don't really think there is a logical explanation because it's just not a logical thing to do. It's just quite weird.
It's so weird. I just imagine being the Sodders. I would have thrown that fucking beef liver at him, being like, "What is this?"
Honestly, I just want to know how he thought that was going to go. Like, what in his mind? What was the reaction going to be when they unearthed it? They wouldn't test to see. Firstly, it's not even charred. As a chief fire officer, surely you'd at least blowtorch it or something. I don't know. That's point number one. But also, after everything, did he not think they might test it to see if it is actually
human? But what's funny as well, it's clearly not panic response because he did it months later. He
wasn't that panicked. He left it a week.
Oh, yeah. I'm just gonna get this beef liver and bury it, and then
New year, new me.
Not tell anyone. But how long did he not tell anyone for? Because he obviously buried it where it didn't decompose in the ash and everything. But when did he bury this and then not tell anyone and then be like, oh, there's a private investigator? Can you imagine if he did it at the time, for whatever reason?
He just was waiting for someone to find it and he's like, found anything?
Or he knew they got a private investigator and they were like, oh my god, what if they go through the site and find the box with the beef liver in? I forgot. And just be like, look, it was me.
I panic buried it. And now you've got a private investigator, I've got to come clean because this is embarrassing.
Okay, it was a weird prank. You've got me. That's probably the weirdest part of the case, to be fair.
Just from the one guy that's meant to be the expert.
I just can't see why he did it.
Maybe he did do it at the time out of panic and then was so embarrassed he just left it and then...
Why just... Tell me this. Why after 7 hours of trying to get to a fire on Christmas morning did he have a spare beef liver
He has a supplier that he can quickly dial up, get the box. Because who has a metal box just casually?
This is what I mean. It must have been after that initial sort through because he must have thought about this.
I can't tell you why. I cannot.
No, I don't know why he wasn't put on the stand, to be honest, and asked questions, but there we go. Be like, are you sure you're qualified to do your job?
Yeah, at least he needs to resign because I'm not trusting this man.
This is the weirdest thing I've heard any fire chief do. But okay, we move. So now we move on to the most haunting pieces of evidence in the entire Sodder case. That was the weirdest.
This is down to
The most haunting. So, the mysterious photograph. Also, the parallels of the Johnny Gosch case.
Yeah.
It arrived in 1967, more than 20 years after the fire. No return address, no explanation, just a single envelope postmarked from Kentucky. Inside was a photograph of a young man in his 20s, dark hair, strong jawline, deep, familiar eyes. He looked exactly like Louis Sodder. And he looked like he would have been at that age, so...
Yeah.
The resemblance was uncanny, not vague, not wishful thinking, but striking. The tilt of the head, the shape of the eyebrows, the set of the mouth. It was Louis, or someone who looked impossibly like him. Jenny stared at the photo for hours. She compared it to Louis' childhood pictures. There was also a message on the back. Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, Illy boys, A90132 or 35. It referenced a location in Kentucky, a place the Sodders had never heard of. Was it a clue? So they sent their private investigator. He took the photo, he took the case, and then he vanished. No updates, no reports, no trace. It was as if he had just been swallowed by the same darkness that took the children.
Had he been paid by that point?
I don't know. But I'm guessing
I wonder
this
if he
is
just
the same...
took the money and run. But
I'm wondering if this was the same the same private investigator who got approached by the fire chief and said, "Oh, I actually did bury a human heart."
Yeah. That's weird.
Because they already had one working.
And he
so
had
it's
the
only when he
picture.
went. Yeah. I don't know if he died or... Yeah. It's weird.
Was silenced.
Exactly. So the Sodders then travelled to Kentucky to investigate the postmark. They found nothing. So we reached the end of this long, winding, unsettling journey. A journey that began with a quiet Christmas Eve in 1945 and spiralled into one of the most haunting mysteries in American history. A case where every answer only raises more questions and every clue seems to point in two directions at once. And a family who absolutely refused to accept the easy explanation.
That's actually crazy to me. What the hell? And I'm trying to think, why would they send a picture? And part of me was like, could it be guilt from if like a couple took them or something and raised them as their own, and then they've raised the kids long enough to know what it would have been like for the parents who have lost their kids, and then they thought, let's send them a picture to like reassure them or something. But then it just doesn't, like, it's very cryptic
really
on the back.
Yes.
Like, are they trying to, like...
I don't even know what part of the message means, because it says, like, the postmark and the coordinates.
Yeah.
But it was, like, ILLIL boys. So I don't even know... I don't know if it's Illinois boys.
Yeah, that would make sense. I don't know, like, could whoever kidnapped them now be, like, dying and they are trying to make peace of it? But then, yeah, I don't get why they would put that cryptic message on the back.
No.
And why would it only be one of them? Why would it not be them all together?
And he's old enough to, if he wants to contact them, contact...
But would he even know? Would they even know that they were taken?
So baby Sylvia was born in 1942, so she would have been about 3, and they were all older than 3. And you've got to think that's 5 children that they've got that's older than 3, so one of them would remember, surely. Unless they've really repressed it.
I don't know, yeah, because people do repress stuff and literally don't even know that they've done that.
It's just so weird, but do you think it's possible that they could have all died in that fire?
No.
I don't think it is either.
Because if the crematorium has said that it would take... Yeah, and the extreme temperatures. I don't know what started the fire. I don't know if it really... surely it can't have been electrics if it started in the attic.
And what's with the guy who stole something from them at the same time?
What the fuck? Why did they let that guy go? Even if he's not involved, he literally could have seen something.
He's definitely very unlucky if he had nothing to do with the fire. But even... Because I don't think he kidnapped the kids.
No.
even if he started the fire accidentally...
Could it be the cut line that started the fire if it was high up and it dangled?
Yeah.
And the sparks were what the balls of fire that neighbours saw or something.
Just really, really bizarre.
Yeah.
Because I think there are parallels between that and the Johnny Gosch case, so I think it could potentially be child trafficking.
So do you think that the fire is separate to the kidnapping?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. I can't work it out because it's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Without the fire, though, they would definitely, like, obviously they would have had to investigate this further, but because everything was just ruled and shoved under the carpet, this is another theme of the Johnny Gosch case. It almost seems like this orchestrated, let's just
open and
dish
shut
out these death certificates without finding anything. It even went to a jury trial to rule that the fire was accidental. So it seems like everything was just closed, and apparently, you know, it's possible, but it's just very, very, very unlikely. There was 5 of them. They didn't find a tooth, a bone.
Yeah, it's just not possible. Surely you would have to literally be at the very centre of the fire where it's going to be burning hottest, if it's ever going to happen.
For a long period of time.
Yeah.
All 5 of them.
Yeah, they can't all put... I just
and
don't
even
see
then,
it.
Something most likely would have made it out for them to be like, okay, they were there.
Yeah.
Because another family actually suffered a house fire where I think it was close to where George and Jenny lived, because Jenny heard about it, and I think it was where the whole family died.
Wow.
Multiple people died, but every one of them was found.
Yeah.
And also in the Sodder home, what they did find in their hour investigation was some kitchen appliances. Small kitchen appliances.
There you go. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I just don't know if they were so quick to dish out death certificates because it was that classic thing of the time where it's like, no one around here would want to kidnap 5 kids. Like, of course they died in the fire.
Yeah.
Nothing else has happened to them.
Like, there was a fire in your house and now 5 kids are gone. Like,
this is what happened.
Yeah.
So there's no like malice to it. There's nothing. There's no cover up or conspiracy.
But then why did the fire chief, bury the liver?
Well, I think surely that must have been a panic. That could only be
a misguided individual.
I think clearly when the PI got involved, he was like, oh, fuck this. Like, I fucked up here.
I would love to have him on as a guest, but he's probably dead now.
Yeah.
It happened so long ago.
Yeah.
But I would love to ask him the question of why. What were you thinking?
Yeah, what was going through your mind? But they definitely can't have died in that fire.
I just don't see how it's possible, and I don't think the mafia explanation makes a whole lot of sense.
I just don't see why they would want 5 kids.
It doesn't. The only person who's going to want 5 kids are either, like you said, a couple who can't have kids or whatever, kidnap them and raise them in a, you know, that's
it's just very extreme as well. Yeah,
but also it could be someone with nefarious intentions, which I think is most likely. Which obviously the mafia do have nefarious intentions, but to silence him over a political debate, it just seems very.
It's just
there's
the
going to
fact
be more people than one disagreeing with Mussolini. Surely.
And surely the kids would be dead. They wouldn't take them with no end game. They would either take them and ransom them or kill them. They wouldn't just take them.
Never been found anywhere else. Obviously there's sightings, but they're all sightings of if they're alive. We don't know if those sightings are even true.
Yeah.
It's just so bizarre. But then you do have the witness of the person who saw children being carried from the house, and that's not a random person states away saying, oh, I saw them in a hotel room. I think, you know,
it's just very ballsy though, isn't it? To come, so then they're not even being taken from outside. Someone's come in the house.
Yeah. Especially as Marion's just asleep on the sofa. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, because part of me thought, could it be, like, if it is sex trafficking, could it have been that, I don't know if they have, like, a homeless issue there at the time, but there were people who thought, we'll get anyone that we can see on Christmas Eve, because these are people that probably don't have families or homes. Then they saw the 5 children outside, and it was opportunity. They were already going out to do something bad, but then they thought, there's 5 kids right there, and they're all quite young. I reckon we could take them.
And then the guy came to steal the block and tackle and then accidentally set the fire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just to play devil's advocate, if he did steal from the home and accidentally cause a fire, he's probably not going to admit to it.
No.
That he then thinks killed 5 children, because that's murder by arson, surely.
Yeah.
That's manslaughter.
Yeah.
You go from a tiny little theft charge up to manslaughter.
But equally, I want to know what... Well, yeah, I guess it doesn't matter what that stuff is that he stole. If he said he cut the power line, which was the phone line, and it was high up,
yeah,
he still would have been on the roof and cut it, and it's still...
He never said about going high up, though. That's something that I theorised.
But I thought the line was high up.
The line was high up. He just said he cut a line that he thought was an electrical line, not the phone line.
But if it was high up that was cut...
It could be the phone line that he accidentally cut. Because people thought, oh, well, the phone line was just destroyed by the fire. But then the phone repairman was like, no, this has been intentionally cut, and it's weird because you wouldn't be able to reach it from the ground, kind of thing. It's
yeah, so then that, yeah.
It makes sense to be him.
Yeah.
Just another thread to this weird case's bow. It's in Appalachia.
Can skinwalkers set fires?
I don't know, it just seemed it's in Appalachian lore, but not as ghost stories, obviously, just of the area, and that billboard was up for many years before it came financially unviable for the family, so they took it down.
Oh, the family paid for that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It wasn't anything to do with Jenny and George, I don't think. I can't
Oh, no,
imagine they would
no.
go to these lengths if they did it.
But
they would have just accepted the fire and been like, yes, the fire.
Exactly that. I was going to say, because the curtains were still open and the light was on.
Yes.
That is a classic no-no.
Did the children hear beckoning from outside and listen to it?
Because that draws them in.
Yeah.
Not having the blinds closed and a light on.
Yeah.
But then if...
And when nothing else makes sense, this is just where my mind goes, and no one can blame me for that, because this case, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. At least with the other disappearing cases we found on here, even though they're so mind-boggling...
There's just something to grab hold of.
There is something, at least. Something tangible to grab hold of. This is just so bizarre and nothing.
Yeah, and there's so many weird little insignificant things that you think, well, is that something?
The beef liver.
The beef liver. The 2 people that said your house is going to burn down.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. Yeah. The guy that stole stuff.
And do you know what? I know this video's at an hour now before editing. I could have gone deeper on this. It's only because I've still got the uni essays that I had when we took our break. They're still there. So it's only because of that I didn't go really deep into it.
Yeah.
But this is the bits that I found the most interesting. Usually I like to do a full-scale deep dive, but this is the crux of it. But it would get weirder if you...
Can you even deep dive it anymore? Because it just doesn't seem like there's anything to...
I don't think anything makes any more sense.
No.
It's just more things that make less sense, kind of thing.
Yeah, it just muddies the water even more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It gets... If you really dive into everything, it's so weird.
What do you guys think? I mean, I don't know what to think. I think, the only thing I do know what to think is that, like, the kids were the goal to take them.
Some people do think they died in the fire.
I don't think that.
Some people...
As a non-fire expert, I don't think that.
Because it is possible, it's just highly, highly, highly unlikely. And I think if it was one of them, I'd still be reluctant to say that it seems the most plausible explanation.
Yeah. No, I don't
But where it's 5 of them, I'm not going to say it. So, we're going to give the twisted tongues for next episode. In a quiet house where shadows learn to speak, a child's voice echoes from a place too deep. Chairs wander freely where no feet are near, and something unseen waits, listening here.
Ooh.
What's it going to be? Comment down below.
And thanks again for listening. And if you do enjoy or have any thoughts, but also if you do enjoy our little podcast, please give us a little like and subscribe, because it does help massively to build our spooky and kooky universe, which we're going to build an army. Word on the curb is, if you're not subscribed after you watch this video, then your 2026 is going to be rubbish. You will be cursed. You will be. I don't make the rules. Sorry to tell you. Word on the curb. So. We're like the insurance man. If you hit subscribe
subscribe now, nothing will happen. Like that chainmail.
Oh my god, those terrify me. Send this on to 10 people.
Yeah, or a girl will appear at the end of your bed. Yeah, if you don't subscribe now, me and Ellen will be at the end of your bed, just watching you sleep.
I don't really know if that was that scary, because we'd probably just be laughing. Well, I guess
Like,
it is
all the
scary because
things.
we don't know where you live.
Or do we? Just subscribe and you won't have to find
Just
out.
like a subscribe, we made that weird. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye.